Okay, so today we're going to have a review lesson on subtracting fractions. So yesterday you were working on adding fractions and then making sure that your answer was in lowest terms. And today we're going to work on subtracting fractions. So I have 3 examples that I want you to write down with me. So at the top I want you to write subtracting fractions. And today, what we're going to do is we're going to draw a smiley face like this. We're going to draw 2 circles. We're going to draw a smile, just like that. Okay? All right. Now, the first example that we're going to put in our notes is an example where we have 5/6 minus 1/3. So of course, just like when we add fractions, we need to have common denominators. So if you look at your numbers and you notice that they do not have common denominators, then that's the first thing that we need to do. So remember, if you are not comfortable with the friendly number 1, then you should be using the EFT, which is a skip counting table chart. So whenever we make our EFT, we always start with the fraction amount that has the lower denominator name. So I'm going to start with 1/3. And I'm going to skip count by 1s on the top, which is very easy. And I'm going to skip count by 3s on the bottom. 3, 6, 9, and 12. And I happen to notice right away that I have a denominator of 6. So I'm going to circle 2 6. And I like to rewrite my fractions right underneath because it makes it for solving very easy. So 5/6 is going to slide into place because it's the larger fraction minus 2 6. And I'm going to subtract only the numerators. So 5 minus 2 is going to give me a numerator of 3, and of course we just slide our denominator over. So whenever I get this fraction name, I should notice, oh, 3 is related to the number 6. 3 can be divided by the number 6. And so when we do that, we can say the numerator has a 3 in common, and the denominator can be a multiple of 3 by 3 too. And so we can divide 3 divided by 3 and get the number 1, and 6 divided by 3 to get the number 2. All right, go ahead and box in your answer. So another name for 3/6 is 1/2. And probably many of you already recognized that before I did all of that extra math. All right, moving on to example number 2. This time I want to show you what happens when we have a whole number like the number 5 and we're subtracting a whole number and a fraction. Remember, we have to rename the number 5 whenever we're trying to take away a fraction amount, because we can't just say nothing minus 3/4. So we have to rename this. So the process is cross out the whole number, and another name for 5 happens to be 4, and we use our denominator name, 4/4. So 4 and 4/4 is actually the number 5. But now that we have a fraction amount, we can slide 2 and 3/4 right underneath, and then we can subtract. So 4/4 minus 3/4 is 1/4, and 4 wholes minus 2 wholes is 2 wholes. So our final answer is 2 and 1/4. All right, and now we're on to our final example. So this example is going to require us to do a little regrouping. I tried to give you an example of all types of fractions. First one was very easy, no regrouping necessary, just renaming of the denominator and then simplifying. The second one, we had a whole number with some fractions, so we had to do a little regrouping here. But now, what happens when we have 1 whole and 1/3 minus 3/4? So of course, neither one of these has common denominators, so we have to rename our denominator. So I'm thinking to myself, what would be a denominator that 4 and 3 could share? That's right, 12. So for this example, I'm going to use my friendly number 1. So how many groups of 4 will get me to 12? Well, that's 4, 8, 12. So that would be 3 groups. Remember, if we rename the denominator, we must rename the numerator too. So that becomes 9 twelfths. Minus, how many groups of 3 will get me to 12? So we have 3, 6, 9, 12. So that would be 4. And if I multiply the bottom by 4, then I must also multiply the numerator by 4. So I get a new fraction name of 4 twelfths. And this 1 is going to slide on down, just like that. Now when I see my fraction, I have 1 and 4 twelfths minus 9 twelfths. So in my head, I'm thinking to myself, well, how in the world can I take 9 away when I only have 4? That's right, you can't do it. So what you have to do is you have to borrow from the number 1, the whole number, number 1. And if I were to rename the whole number, number 1, I would call it 12 twelfths, because 12 twelfths is the same thing as the whole number 1. Now what I like to do, since we know what I like to do is I like to put these two together. So I'm going to put a little adding symbol, and I'm actually going to put parentheses around this, because technically what I want to do is I want to add first, then subtract. So we're using all of our GMA knowledge to help us figure out what this fraction name is. So if I have 12 twelfths and I add 4 twelfths to that, I will end up getting 16 twelfths, which is an improper fraction, but that's okay because we're about to subtract some away. So we're going to subtract 9 away from that, and 9 from 16 is going to give me, let's see, that would give me 7. And then of course our denominator is 12. Make sure I did that right. So 10 plus 6. Okay, just making sure. It's been a long day. So my answer is 7 twelfths. Now I have to think to myself, does 7 share any factors with the number 12? No. So since they share no common factors, our answer 7 twelfths is in lowest terms. All right, so at the bottom, I want you to write finished with an exclamation point. Okay? I want you to go show these notes to your teacher, and then she will give you directions on the next thing.